Everything just changed for the New York Rangers. As we officially enter trade deadline week, things are bound to get a little more crazy. We have some shocking comments and some fallout from the Ryan Lingren trade, as well as what we have to look forward to post-trade deadline. We're going to break all of that down, plus some other updates in this video. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 68% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with the New York Rangers, from trade rumors to trade reports that are probably going to wrap up this week with the trade deadline, to post-game reactions, practice updates, all that good stuff, it's free. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Now, we have a lot to get to in this video. It's been a crazy past 2 days for the New York Rangers and a huge win against the Nashville Predators. I know it's against the team that literally cannot score, as Luke Shen alluded to last week, but nonetheless, a big 4-0 win for the team. But we're going to start with some quotes from the coach and some fallout on Ryan Lingren. And he went on to say, "I can't thank Ryan Lingren and Jimmy enough for what they've done for the organization long before I got here and since I've been here." Talking about two really good human beings and two really good hockey players that played hard for the New York Rangers. It's always tough to see change. I think change is always tough. So some nice words there from Coach Peter Laviolette for two guys who, played really hard for the New York Rangers. Obviously, I've been focusing more on Ryan Lingren because obviously, like I mentioned, he quite literally bled for this team. He put his body on the line for this team. And Jimmy Vesey, too, is a great role player for this team at times. So, shout out to both of them. And you know what? I think that, unfortunately, sometimes in sports, you got to make necessary moves like that, and I think it was a necessary move with where this team is at. But we have some new players on the team as well, and we'll get to the game in a bit because I want to touch on a few players like Berard as well, and I will do that later in the video. He looks fantastic. It was, really on paper, you could look at it and be like, why was he ever sent down? It did make sense at the time, but, well, boy, he looks good. So I'm glad that he's back. But these are some comments from newly acquired Calvin DeHaan, who looks like he's going to be a depth defenseman for this team. And he went on to say, "I'm not putting up a ton of points, just trying to play good, solid defense. Just move pucks up to the forwards, go from there," which, by the way, great, right? The Rangers need puck-moving defensemen. Any team needs puck-moving defensemen to get it up to the forwards so they can do their job, getting the puck out of the zone cleanly. So I'm glad that he's putting a lot of attention to detail into that. If everyone's on my Hockey DB page right now, which we definitely were the other day, that's for sure, in the video, my stats aren't too sexy right now. My underlining numbers and stuff, the fancy stuff, has been pretty good for most of the season. Sometimes it doesn't maybe match the eye test, just my style of play. You know what? You need the stuff like that sometimes. You need the intangibles that really don't show up on Hockey DB or just the stats, right? So I'm glad that he's going to bring that to the table. Again, he's probably just going to be a depth defenseman, but that, he's bringing something to the table here. And this is from Vince Mercogliano as well, from Juuso Parssinen, who is a pretty big dude. Obviously covered that in a previous video. Big guy. I'm excited to continue to see him play with this Rangers team. On his reaction to hearing about the trade to the New York Rangers, a little bit shocked, but when you hear it's the Rangers, it's a pretty legendary organization. It feels pretty special today to put on the jersey, and he did that yesterday in a big win. They did not let in a goal. Big performance from Jonathan Quick once again this season. He's been fantastic ever since he came to the Rangers. And again, love to hear that from a guy coming into the organization, that he's ready to embrace everything and he's heard so much about the team. And to go back to Calvin DeHaan, on going from a playoff position with the Avs to a playoff fight with the Rangers. You go up and down this lineup. There's a boatload of talent on this team. There's no reason why this team can't make a push for the playoffs. Just happy to be on a team with playoff aspirations. I think we can do some damage if we get to go to the dance. And I think that a lot of people actually share that sentiment, and I've been saying it for a while. If this Rangers team gets into the playoffs, Washington's going to be a tough out, but if you get into the playoffs, anything can happen, especially if you get hot goaltending. Anything can happen. There's still a lot of really good skill on this Rangers team, and JT Miller's been fantastic ever since he's become a New York Ranger. I'm excited to see what he can do in the playoffs. So I'm not saying that the Rangers will win a playoff round or anything like that. They got to get in the playoffs first, right? But I do think that they have potential to do some damage this year because it's not too different from the team we've seen the last couple of years. Not too different, obviously. Well, at this point, the top end talent is still the same, but at this point, the rest of the lineup a little bit different. But it should be interesting to see what they do if they were to make the playoffs. But we'll get to the game in a second. Last thing I wanted to touch on is Mika Zibanejad, who has been fantastic since the turn of the calendar to February. And obviously we're now in March, but since February 1st, he's been one of the best players in the league. And we'll get to his stat in a second, which blew my mind when I saw it. But Vince Mercogliano spoke to Mika about all the changes the Rangers have undergone this season. He had this to say about losing Ryan Lingren, which I think echoes how everyone in the room feels. Not just everybody in that dressing room, but I think the fans as well. Everyone's going to miss Ryan Lingren and what he brought to the table, right? But the way he played, the way he was on the ice, I think it's very apparent for everyone and very obvious what he did for us. And when you have someone who does all the things that he did for us, the way he played through injury, the way he just battled every game, you talk about giving 100% every night. That was Lindy. And then off the ice, one of the nicest human beings I've ever met. It's tough. So obviously, Mika and a lot of these guys have gone through some serious change to, the bottom of the lineup so far this season. Obviously, Jacob Trouba out the door, and then now Ryan Lindgren, a guy who's been there for pretty much the entire duration of this core's tenure in New York. And again, Mika Zibanejad now leads the NHL in points since February 1st with 15 points. He has 4 goals and 11 assists in 10 games, including one last night. So he's been phenomenal, again, since February started. And as you can see here, I mean, we were talking about his point totals a little while ago in January, heading into the new year, and that it just simply wasn't good enough. I still don't think it's good enough, but it looks a lot better than it did. He did some serious damage in February, so he's playing a lot better. He's playing quite a bit as well, because obviously his ice time went down a little bit at the start of the year. That, we had a video on that as well, and how that may have actually affected his play. Minus 20, not ideal this year. I mean, he is not playing well defensively, but he's certainly picking it up offensively, which is good, because if he went the whole season playing the way he was before, that would have spelled trouble for any type of playoff aspirations this team had. But again, a very, very good sign for Mika Zibanejad and the New York Rangers. Now, to move on to the game last night, a great game. We'll touch on this very quickly against the Nashville Predators, a team that, again, has a hard time scoring, but anytime you can get a shutout win and a big one on home ice, that is definitely a huge win. And if you watch the Rangers game tonight and you're still confused as to why Brett Berard should be in the lineup every single game, I can't help you. Now, a lot of people were like, why was Brett Berard sent down? And you know what? At the time, it made sense because he wasn't going to play. The lineup was pretty full. Adam Edstrom was still, he wasn't injured yet. It made sense because if Brett Berard's going to sit in your press box in favor of some other guys who've been there, it doesn't make sense to have him sit in the press box. He wanted to play games. So that's why he was sent down to the AHL, just to get into games so he can continue playing and not sit and just, not get in any work, right? So it made sense to me at the time. But at this point in time, the fact that you traded Jimmy Vesey, it looks like you're about to trade Riley Smith, by the way. I didn't mention that in this video. Riley Smith is going to get traded today, tomorrow. It's going to happen before Friday, I can tell you that. So Riley Smith was held out of this game. He's going to get traded. So with another roster spot opening up, there's no reason Brett Berard can't stay with this team the rest of the year. He looks fantastic. He looked fantastic his first little stint with the team earlier this season. He's hard on the forecheck for, a guy that's a little bit smaller. He does all the things right. Like, he does not play like his size. He plays like he's a lot bigger. So I love that for that player. Scored a really nice goal yesterday. He does everything right, it seems. He does almost everything right. And even if he were to make a mistake, it's like, okay, because, you're doing a lot right otherwise. So he's been fantastic. And then some high praise from Johnny Brodzinski, who obviously spent some time with Othman and Brett Berard. And Othman's looked pretty good too since coming up, but obviously playing a little bit less. I mean, the other night against the Toronto Maple Leafs, the young guys didn't even play at all, which is interesting considering something we're about to get to just to close the video. But we'll get to that in a second. But Brodzinski had some interesting things to say about his former Hartford teammates. It's awesome playing with Biebs and Otter. Love those guys. It's awesome to see, especially Biebs getting sent back down. He was extremely bummed after that. I just told him, you're going to get another shot. We all knew he was going to get another shot. He was going to come back up. Happy to see him put one in the back of the net. You could see it. Doesn't matter if the game was 8-0. He's still going to celebrate like that. That's just the type of personality he's got, and he's fiery. It's awesome. He's definitely fiery, and I loved that celebration. That guy loves scoring goals and loves winning with the New York Rangers. The last thing I wanted to mention is a couple quotes from Zac Jones here, who played a lot in that game against Nashville, and he's finally back in the lineup as well. And I said before, and a lot of people were kind of saying, what are you talking about? That he could play on the power play. He could quarterback a power play without Adam Fox there. He did that yesterday. Is he doing it well? That's up for debate, surely, but I think that he can do it, and he should be put in that situation right now with Adam Fox out. And he went on to say, starting deadline week and the vibe around the team, he said, honestly, it's pretty loose. Obviously, losing guys like Lindy and Vest hurt, and two great guys, great players, and you never want to see guys go, but that's just the nature of the beast. I thought we played well. I won't say that word. We just had a great vibe in the room. Everything was lighthearted. Everyone was upbeat. It was just good vibes going into today. Then obviously 2 points is 2 points. We need them right now, so we'll take the win. They certainly need them right now in the playoff race. And not just that, Zac Jones led all skaters in time on ice tonight with 22 minutes and 15 seconds. I mean, this came out of nowhere. Laviolette never does this, so I don't know if something changed overnight, if he slept differently. I really don't know what it was, but Peter Laviolette had maybe a change of heart over the last day, over the last 24 hours. So usually it would never happen, but I think this is a good sign that maybe he's going to start to trust the young guys after not doing that in the Toronto Maple Leafs game. It's going to be very, very interesting. But Zac Jones, it caught him by surprise, and he went on to say, really, it's just great to play hockey again. Can't complain about it. So I love Zac Jones. I love the attitude. He's still here. He's going to continue to do his best for this team, and I think that's all that Rangers fans can ask if he's not going to get moved. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens ahead of Friday, but one thing's for sure, the Rangers are definitely still in the mix for that playoff spot. So it's going to get interesting. It's not looking as likely as it was, but with the young guys coming up and guys like Berard playing as well as they are, anything's possible. They can still definitely make the playoffs. So it's going to be very interesting. Let me know in the comments what you think about everything discussed today. Some very interesting stuff, quotes and stuff from the coach, Peter Laviolette, and obviously some of the newly acquired players. And I think we're going to have some more quotes from newly acquired players later on this week, because I do think Riley Smith is on his way out very shortly. But let me know what you think in the comments. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.